Government has indicated tomorrow's budget to be delivered by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be heavy on infrastructure, and it will inspire hope. Hopefully it does. Well, the minority has predicted government will seek to increase more taxes. The minority at a press budget seminar yesterday warned that Thursday's budget statement will not have anything positive for Ghanaians. But Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah tells JoyNews the predictions by the minority will not materialize.
Well, you know, the first 2 years have helped us to clear up a good chunk of the challenges that we inherited, and at the same time introduce a number of our flagship programs that are aimed at generating jobs and growth and incomes for people. Now, launching on into year 3 and going into year 3 at a time when we're exiting the IMF program, the budget will focus on how to now go deeper into delivering on our flagship programs, how to tackle some of the issues like liquidity in the system, complete the financial sector resolution that we are talking about. Infrastructure is a big matter that we've all been talking about, so you see some work on that, and then you also see some value for money measures, so that it's not just about always trying to raise more money, but trying to do more with the little that we have as well. As the President has said, we should all have a lot of hope for what lies ahead.
The minority says we can expect hell going into 2019 from what they've seen, and a lot of hopelessness, they say, and they are warning of rising.
There's going to be hunger. They said there was going to be a mobile phone tax or a talk time tax. They said there was going to be economic recession, and I'm sure you know what the definition of a recession. I think that over the years, as they have done this exercise, when it comes to their credibility on economic predictions, there's not much to speak about in that area. So I think we can disregard their comments and wait for the finance minister.
There is evidence that taxes had gone up even after the previous budget, although not in the manner they said it would go. And they say that points to their credibility. At least there was a bit of it.
It doesn't. They listed a number of tax measures which they said they were damn sure was going to happen. They said the deficit was going to come down to 3.8. They came up with all sorts of concocted ideas. None of it happened. I don't think that we should really pay much heed to this prediction of panic and doom that they tried to do ahead of every budget. Let's focus on the statement that the finance minister is going to put out there, the measures that he's going to roll out, and how we implement those measures.
And the last question be, what do you envisage the ordinary Ghanaian will walk away with after listening to the finance minister tomorrow?
Most importantly, the ordinary Ghanaian will find out how we are financing or funding what remains undone of the agenda.
That's the Minister for Information there, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. In the meantime, leadership of artisans at the Swami Magazine Industrial Hub is calling on government to allocate some percentage of the annual budget to the artisans to upgrade themselves. It is among other expectations like reduction in import duties and taxes on spare parts at the ports. Chairman of the National Association of Garages, Nana Osei-Bonsu, and other members have been speaking to Love FM's Prince Apia on the expectations of the budget.
The 2018 budget was expected to bring a lot of hope, especially for businesses and artisans here at the Swami Magazine Enclave. But what came out was the need for taxes to come down, especially on spare parts and other imports. The 2019 budget is a few days ahead, and we want to find out from the artisans whether the expectations remain the same on spare parts and imports, or it has changed for something else. The government should also consider Ghana National Association of Garages in terms of this budget is making. You should at least allocate a small percentage for the association to also train our youth coming to meet up the expectation, because new technology is coming. So if our youth are not trained to meet up that expectation, it will come to a time that our idea will be archaic. And without the support, we cannot do that, because these diagnostic machines, they cost a lot, and training a person for a month or two will also cost. So we expect the government will at least reconsider things and allocate us a percentage in this newly budget that is coming.
We, the artisans of magazine, we expect nothing but the best. and we have a problem which now doesn't make our work attractive anymore, because when you need a loan, all the banks they give loans to only government workers or how do you call it, the workers in the formal sector, but doesn't give loans to the informal sector. So it has become a problem for us. When we need loans, we don't have it. We have no way to access any loan from any bank. Also, for this reason, our business is no more at government to make allocation for we the artisans, so that our businesses will be attractive.
I import spare parts from outside the country. We want government to reduce the import duties. That is all we are expecting in this budget. Government should reduce the import duties at the ports.
So you heard from the spare parts dealers at Swami Magazine. Well, my colleague Roland Walker has also been speaking to some traders at Makola who have been appealing to government to improve the economy, as life, they say, is harsh for them.
Me say oton onions.
Aya onion no meto.
Okay. You onions no aya unye free he.
Onu de free Niger.
Mudi free Niger ton.
Niger no free no. But free Niger abaha. Ghana.
So they have to bring these onions, these onions well packaged, well packed, and then they are brought into Ghana, and ultimately means that is going to have an influence on the price. But me person bibisa wo alaji. Adentina jene ye wo he yenye bi wo Ghana aden eba ne sen.
We dey say enye yana ye okurampo. Oni dey say Ghana dey anu dey Young baby de no owo onyo onibi ntino ye do free Niger adibaha
enti se udi free Niger omo de gudie mu basket mu ana te se na gugu echire ho na na
eguka ye de eguka de
enti no se nyama mu de gum na eya moto na ahin free Niger na mo beton no ahin e wo Ghana
oni de yesu ye wo Ghana de do free Ghana Niger na de aba oni mi ne susu no yakoto nchen
enti uko fa agbogloshi ana
agbogloshi no mi ko fa no
enti wo so ko fe free agbogloshi na wo so wa beton
so ho de asak kitwa no de ye tonu 25 bi susu ye tonu 21 ana ye di ba ha kurampo na ye di ton sane
so we see 25 ni 21 na 1,500 Ghana cedis eh 25 million
25 million
na boye di o alaji
e dem papa sa wo mi se o mu furu nu ha sane o ye di aba wo hu ntin ye susu ye ko ton ni chen kurampo na ye di ba na ye di ton Ghana ha wo hu ni boye di ye susu ye nye fi kurampo zirutu ye di ba ha kurampo na ya nton kurampo o si na ni boye di papa nti ye nyam fa so bia ni su kurampo.
So he's not a main importer, so he has to go and take these onions from the Agbogloshi market. It's just some few meters away from here, and then he would have to come to the Makola number 1 market where he has a stand to come and retail it. And he says that it's expensive. It takes it's range between 2,500 Ghana cedis and 2,100 Ghana cedis in that sort of basket that we're seeing behind there. And he feels that, well, the retailing of the onions for him, according to his own observation, this year has been a bit slow. Adentina o ha ye ntonyama no
ayan kokura ye dia ba kurampo na wa hu dia we biscuit no kurampo obetuma ye 5 days and 7 week awahaya kurampo ya ntonu ansana asa kurampo wonne mfaso bia kurampo dia obedi kakra bi dia obedi kurampo wanye.
Last year na 2005 dia no and 2001 dia na o tona here ansana wa beton
ana ntino mi kachiro se last year dia oni dia tonu 2000 and CCA 2001 no last year dia tonu 1500 into this year kurampo
transport fares etc. It ultimately would have to affect the prices of the produce that they sell. Ujene no also unye free hen also the
free Niger.
Na di ntina ye wo Ghana mode Niger jene e na ba Ghana mentiase
Ghana ne ni mudua Ghana ne dua enye papa udua na se ba e se omo ejai no mo njai na odi nso no gusu ntitamu a adne be ben no na pro nti enim nti se omo ye no wo ho no e ho de o madwuma nti.
So she's also commenting about the onions that are coming from Niger. Apparently the ones that come from Niger have a better shelf life. They last longer on the shelf. They don't get spoiled easily, and so we don't tend to have more difficulty in storing them, so to speak. But akakedrone ya unya free he
Kumasi ne Jiasekai
voter ena Kumasi Ashanti na ohwe ne bo na e no say season mu na ohwe ne bo na o de compare last year na it is saying if you compare the pricing of ginger for example from the
say na fe na ebenti no ne bo na ye kakra nti afom ye den a na fe o mato so
I say na ohwe sani yesi ton nyama nso te se nkofo badwom no mutimi ton nyama ohwe honestly
de anya kora se de market enye ye bre ntimma bua yai
sa na moka mo de temia ye ba na sa
ya bro ya nto ade ma yai eti enya aduane ni.
So I asked her if sales are better in terms of the amount that she makes in a day, and she says that of course the market women tend to have that response as a trend that the last year was better than this year. In Tobacco said last year na eyechen
no eyechen se de enkokora
say ejuma mi ye member marketer maybe say dwadifo ne say whether motade o compare last year ni this year o marketer me say this year ne ye chen last year I didn't know te sa
afidi enye.
And that's a very dicey question. It's always the same, well, more like the same answer you get when you go out on the street asking market people, and they always say, you know, sales are bad, it's not so good. I don't know if it's a trend. But anyway, as you know, JoyNews will be bringing you comprehensive coverage of the budget presentation tomorrow. In the meantime, though, Philip Nanfuri is with the business desk, Joy Business, he joins me in the studio on what to expect tomorrow. Philip, it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So before this, you've been explaining the figures away. Yeah. I mean, on Business Live, etc. And here on the show, I want us to make it very Swami magazine-like and Makola-like.
I like that.
Makola-like discussion. Let's start, by the way, with what we're to expect tomorrow. Let's start with revenue expenditure. Give us a broad overview of government's target, the target the government set for itself, and the extent to which it has achieved anything at all as far as that is concerned. Okay,
Gifty, thank you very much. Just before I get into the revenue expenditure numbers, you made reference to breaking it down for the Swami magazine man to understand. And this resonates appropriately with the theme we crafted in-house, and the theme is the reality versus the numbers. Over the years, budgets have been presented. I have one right in front of me here. People don't like to go through it.
Is that the last one?
This is the 2018 budget, okay. Putting Ghana back to it. People don't want to go through it. They find it bulky, it's a lot of pages, a lot of numbers.
Exactly.
So what we're thinking about is how do we connect the budget to the ordinary man? Right. And it's very good that you mentioned this in it. So that's why we have the theme, the reality versus the numbers. Okay, so jumping into the revenue expenditure targets government set for itself in the 2018 budget. I'll start with expenditure. In the main budget, they set an expenditure target of about 61 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. Then we saw in the mid-year review that this was dropped down a notch lower to 60.789 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
Now, gathering data from the Ministry of Finance website, fiscal data, that's revenue and expenditure. As of July 2018, we have spent about 33 billion Ghana cedis of the expenditure targets.
Okay.
That's just north of half of the mid-year reviewed target. Initially, it was about 61 billion.
Okay.
Then
and
came
then it was
down
reviewed to 60
billion. And then as of July 2018, we've done about 33 billion Ghana cedis.
Is there an interpretation we can put on this? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it ugly?
Okay, so if you drill down into the numbers, there are three main areas that government spends our revenues on. And this has been discussed by civil society organizations or think tanks, I beg your pardon, like the Institute of Fiscal Studies. In the past week or two, they've been very heavy on the budget discussions. Okay. Now, the first area is compensation, wages and salaries. One key area where our funds go to, or our revenues go to. Second one is the interest on our debt, not the principals, the interest we pay on our debt. And the third one is the statutory payments, get fund, etc. We saw in the 2017 budget, after the budget was read, the finance minister made mention of the realignment and capping of statutory funds act or bill, which was passed into an act, so that they take out some revenue from these statutory funds and channel it to other parts.
Which became a very big political issue for discussion.
Indeed, and channel it to other parts of the of our expenditure items.
Okay.
In previous budgets, about 99% of our revenues have gone into these three areas I've mentioned. Okay. Salaries, compensation, payments to public sector workers, interest payments, and then the statutory payments. Okay. When I read IFS submissions, they are very active on Twitter also. You follow it and you realize that the problem still persists. A year on, our revenues are still going into these three main areas, which means that the other important area, which is capital expenditure, becomes deficient in available funds. So how will we fund this capital expenditure? Either we're going to borrow, or they'll have to find innovative means of raising new funds to settle these areas. Which
has always been the area, the bone of contention, especially governments, people saying government is trying to overtax those, 6% that's already paying taxes.
The 1.2 million.
Right, that's already paying taxes and so forth. So go ahead.
Okay, so that's for expenditure. Now, revenue, I have it right in front of me here. In the main budget, total revenue and grants was put at 51 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. In the July mid-year budget review, it was taken down to 50.686 billion Ghana cedis. As of July 2018, we have been able to raise 24.732 billion Ghana cedis.
So there's an interesting trend I'm seeing here, Philip, and I don't know if you can help me understand it a bit more. So, by so doing, our viewers, we've seen that in the expenditure, when we review the budget, it went down. Yeah. We've seen the same thing in the revenue, that it also went down, almost by the same percentage. Yeah. What is that? I mean, what does that say? Is there any interpretation we could put to this?
Well, if I remember clearly from the mid-year review, the finance minister gave a number of arguments as to why they would do so. Normally, people will expect a supplementary budget. Some economists, some statisticians argue that if you come to Parliament for a supplementary budget, it means that you haven't managed your funds properly. That's up to them. But from what this means was that what they initially planned to spend, they dropped it lower. What they initially planned to collect, they dropped it lower. Perhaps they've been able to clean up with regards to revenue. Maybe some of the measures they took from 2017 into 2018 yielded some results. Maybe with regards to expenditure, they were able to streamline their expenditures and contain some waste here and there. And so that's why we saw this drop in it. But clearly, if you see from the numbers, expenditure 33 billion, revenue 24, clearly a mismatch, and that's where the concept of fiscal deficit comes into play.
And it does get a bit technical here, I must say. But once again, like I said, it has to. We're trying to do a very Swami magazine-like discussion here. So, Philip, what it means here is that we are basically spending more than we're making.
Exactly.
So you have 50 Ghana cedis you know, you get 50 Ghana cedis at the end of the month, but you're spending 60 or 70 Ghana cedis.
Exactly.
Where do you get the extra 10 or 20 cedis from?
And this is where the borrowing comes into play. If you're not going to borrow, then you must expand your tax net. I remember during my master's, we were studying something about taxation, and we looked at revenue, efficiency of it, the administration of it, revenue raising. How are you going to broaden the tax net from the 1.2 million that you have? Some argue that broadening the tax net to include the informal sector will take a lot of time. We need to plug our deficit or plug the loophole instantly or instantaneously.
Okay.
How are we going to fill it in? The most immediate measure, the quickest measure, is by borrowing. While at the same time, in my opinion, while at the same time, you have to put in moves or processes or procedures to expand your tax net.
Okay. So let's wrap up with the conversation about the the revenue versus expenditure expectations, the targets the government set for itself and its level of achievement. Okay, so right now, from the data we have here, that's from the Ministry of Finance website. As of July, I checked this data as a Monday, so maybe I will assume that something has changed. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. But we need to account for August, we need to account for September, we need to account for October. Fortunately, in the presentation of the budgets, the Finance Minister has to give a performance of what has transpired over the past fiscal year. So from the beginning, from the last budget he presented, right down to the one he presents tomorrow, he will account. So at that time, we will get some good data on the August, September, and October numbers. Okay. So we should see how we are doing. But the general consensus is that revenue hasn't been performing very well or has been performing poorly. But I thought we were doing very well with all the paperless things that we introduced. Look at what's happening at the ports. People expected, actually there were projections by the Vice President and others who believe in this conversation that blocking the loopholes they said existed at the Tema port, for example, had increased government revenue and all of that. So isn't it curious that we still could not reach the target? That's why I'm saying that the August, September and October numbers can or cannot make a difference to the 24 billion we are seeing here. Okay. Yeah, but however, good progress has been made in blocking certain loopholes and some of these things you've rightly mentioned. Okay. Well, in this budget, the previous budget, Philip, we've seen these macroeconomic indicators, and we're looking at what? Overall GDP growth, 6.8%, non-oil growth rate, 5.4%, and I'm sitting in the in the seat or standing in the shoes of the woman who sells in Makola, and I'm asking, what do all these figures mean for me as a petty trader, for example, for me as a usual everyday person? Okay, there's always the argument that the figures are in a different realm, if I might say so. So then it's very difficult to break it down. To break it down. But I will do my very best. Let's see how it goes. With regards to overall GDP growth rate, GDP or gross domestic product, the total output of goods and services produced in an economy within a given time frame, usually 1 year. All government seeks to do is to put the economy on a proper footing, on a strong growth trajectory. Okay. Now, if you look at it, we have an overall GDP growth. So all sectors in the economy coming together to drive growth. There was a time where our growth was as high as 11 to 14%. I don't know the exact figure, so forgive me. But that was hovering around 11%. 11 to 14%. That was around 2011. Why was this so? This was heavily hinged on our discovery of oil. We had started commercial production in 2010 after the find in 2008. So you see that, okay, there's a boom in growth numbers in terms of, yes, there's activity in that oil sector. The part that is of great concern to the ordinary man on the ground is that that part of the economy that's driving the growth, is it providing the necessary jobs that we need? The oil sector can't give jobs to all of us. You and I may not get jobs there. The man on the ground may not get jobs there. The quantum of jobs it may provide will not be enough. Where the jobs will come from are the agricultural sectors and the industrial sectors. They have the capacity to provide a lot of the jobs and at the same time boost the growth numbers. We've seen that the services sector has overtaken these two in terms of its dominance in the GDP share.
So the services sector, the communications, the ICT, the banking, the insurance, whatsoever. So this 6.8% was what government said, okay, given this course of the year, given number of oil fields, given the different components in the other real sectors, and by real sectors, the agricultural, industrial services, we are going to see a growth of 6.8%. Somewhere along the year, the International Monetary Fund dropped our growth rate to 6.3%, acknowledging certain problems within our economy. Non-oil growth rate means that this is what the economy is going to grow minus the oil, and you can clearly see the difference.
So Philip, I'd like for you to, just so we don't bore our viewers, and I believe these things could really get you confused. Let's wrap it up with, if you could just summarize for me what these indicators mean. Is there even a way? I mean, you've indicated already that it's in a different realm, but is there even a way? If there's no way of breaking it down, we can move on. We can move forward. Right. So if you put all of these together, what does it mean for the ordinary person?
All these numbers are supposed to translate to good growth prospects, I beg your pardon, on the ground. So it's like getting an A in a paper, and this A guaranteeing you progress to the next level or the next grade. This is all you're supposed to do. Put you on a strong footing and say that, okay, now we are growing at this percentage, so therefore this component of the economy is growing, and therefore it's creating this number of jobs and it's doing this and this. That is all the numbers are supposed to do.
If we say it that way, then what would you say? What would you say has been the improved rate or improvement rate of what we saw previously and what we're experiencing now at the moment? Is there a way to figure this out?
Okay, if I get your question clearly, you want to look at how exactly over the course of time.
Right, based on the figures.
Based on the figures. Okay, in past fiscal years, let me start from at least 2012, 2013, we saw that there was a drop in the commodity prices. We heavily export gold, cocoa. On the international market, these prices dropped, affected our fortunes, caused ripples in the economy, and our growth slowed. As at the end of 2016, our growth was hovering around 3.6% from the Ghana Statistical Service. 2017, at the end of the year, we saw our growth go up to 8.5%, down to a number of factors. For this year, the current data available from the Ghana Statistical Service, as at the second quarter of 2018, points that our economy has grown at 5.4%, that's year on year. So from the last quarter of 2017, we've grown by 5.4% in this year. The last quarter, we did very high. I think we're around 11% for 2017, Q2. But now the data is only up to Q2, that's second quarter, I beg your pardon.
So we'll have to wait.
Yes, we'll have to wait to see the third quarter once and things. But the argument here is that the ripple effects of the banking sector challenges will feed into our growth prospects as they seem to affect other parts of the economy, how they are interlinked and connected. What
do you make of the policy initiatives taken by government to achieve these targets that it set for itself?
I think overall, every government has a good intention for its people, for you and I. The policy initiatives, starting from 2017 budget, some of them continued into the 2018 budget. The very popular ones under the Infrastructure and Poverty Eradication Program. I think they're very good, but the argument that's always thrown about is the cost of these projects and whether our fiscal state can handle these things. But no matter what, I believe there should be a fine balance between managing our finances and improving development, or making sure that citizens of a country are given what they are needed to improve their welfare and their well-being.
Okay. The minority, for example, minority in parliament have made some doomsday predictions, if you like. They say government, we should expect some meltdown, total meltdown in the banking sector, for example. They predicted financial sector recession. They said that looking at all of these, nothing good can really come out of this. Based on the analysis that we've seen so far, the figures that we've seen so far, what we are to expect, do you think these are genuine concerns? To what extent are they genuine concerns or basically political doomsday predictions?
Well, I believe for the minority, that's their opinion, that's their standing. I will not want to wade into that. I'll look at what I have before me, what I have from various bodies, the Bank of Ghana, Statistical Service, read and make my own influences. But with regards to the banking sector challenges, that is a given. We've experienced a lot of mess in the sector. But however, given the measures the Bank of Ghana has put in place to make sure that the banking sector as a whole is on the right footing, I expect to see some modest recovery. We're also learning that the savings and loan sector is about to be hit with regards to a cleanup. However, we also learned that there's going to be a sort of moderation in how it's going to be done in terms of release of funds to cater for that thing, I beg your pardon. And we also learned that the World Bank will play a role in resolving some of the issues in the savings and loans sector for the pure and simple reason that it's a pro-poor intervention. It's microfinance. It's supposed to target the poor in society.
Yeah.
So yes, for the banking sector challenges, yes. With regards to the definition of it being a recession, I would step out of that because from what I understand for recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth overall. I don't know if we can cherry pick certain sectors and conclude that, yeah, for that I cannot tell. Maybe it's up to a statistician or a practicing economist, even though I learned economics, I beg your pardon. It's up to a practicing one to do that. But we have experienced challenges in the banking sector, no doubt. But I'm sure going forward, the regulator, Bank of Ghana, all interested parties, government itself, that's through the Ministry of Finance, will do the right thing to ensure that we are back on the right footing.
Okay, well, so let's wrap up with what's going to happen or what we're expecting to happen tomorrow. We're expecting that this budget will be focused a lot more on infrastructure, and I'm not particularly sure exactly what sort of infrastructure. If you say infrastructure, what areas? What are we talking about? Building school, facilities for schools, roads. What is it that we're looking at? What are your own expectations, and what should our viewers expect of our coverage tomorrow? But let's begin with the expectations of the content. Okay, so
tomorrow's budgets will satisfy legal requirements that's in line with Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution, which stipulates that the Finance Minister, on behalf of the President, will present the budget to the House of Parliament no later than the last month of this year. However, apart from that, we have, like I mentioned earlier on in our discussion, the general overview, sectoral performance, each of the ministries, how they've done their projects. Then we have the outlook in terms of where we are going 2019, 2020, 2021. Then we see revenue expenditure, and we see the part we are all happy when it comes to policy initiatives. That's where we can see the introduction or the removal of taxes, whatsoever, new programs, continuation of programs, addition of programs. So we should see a raft of things or a plethora of things tomorrow from the Minister of Finance, I beg your pardon. With regards to the infrastructure, like you rightly said, it's very broad. It can cover all manner of areas.
Yeah.
But I would really like to see what exactly we are going to do with regards to the infrastructure. You know, there was the talk of this century bond, and are we going to? We heard we're going to see more of it in the 2019 budget with regards to flesh around it and what exactly they plan to do. Whether it to be scrapped or not, we cannot tell. But that's why I am literally itching for tomorrow to come to see what exactly the budget contains and where we are going for.
But tomorrow, as usual, Joy Business is leading this coverage of the budget.
Yes, please.
What are our viewers to expect?
Okay, like I said, again, our theme, we crafted this theme, the reality versus the numbers. And the hashtag is your budget. Okay. The reason why we are using your budget is there's no doubt that there's been some disconnect when it comes to budgets.
Okay.
We don't really care. We just cherry pick what's going on.
Of course.
Tomorrow
and what the politicians,
Exactly. This time we want to give you our budgets in the most comprehensive manner possible. We'll do our very best to try and break it down. We'll listen keenly to the conversations going tomorrow. We'll start our discussions based on what we have here, 2018, and we'll build into 2019. So it's all about the reality, what's on the ground, like you said, Summer Magazine. What's on the ground? Is it what's really in this
like
book?
the politicians will say, the job they ground. So we want to find out what the job they give. Do you have any predictions? No, predictions? Expectations for the caption for the budget, the name for the budget. We just had an artwork that we put on that showed you what the names of the the captions that has been given to the, there it is,
yes,
the captions that have been given to the budget so far. And of course, we don't know what's next, what's going to be next. But it's been very interesting names there. You have something like
last year's one was putting Ghana back to work.
Okay, so there's investing from 2009, investing in a better Ghana.
Yes.
2010, growth and stability. 2011, stimulating growth for development and job creation. Infrastructure development for accelerated growth and job creation. 2012. 2013, sustaining confidence in the future of the Ghanaian economy. 2014, rising to the challenge, realigning the budgets to make key national priorities. And then it goes on and on and on. Transformational agenda, securing the bride. And I don't know, really, if these are just to capture people's attention or whether or not it actually means something to the budget and the outcomes of the budget going for 20. What are your expectations of how the next one is going to be named?
If you just permit me, I said this on Business Live about 2 or 3 days ago that from Shakespeare's play, Romeo and Juliet, what's in the name? They said a rose will still smell as sweet if it were called anything else. You understand? I don't know where I'm going with that. So some may ask, with all these names that we've put to budgets, have they really been? Because look at the most recent one, the one I have in front of me. That's 2018, putting Ghana back to work. And
is Ghana back at work?
That's a question you should ask yourself.
I'm asking you.
Do you feel like you're back at work?
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
So yeah, but I mean tomorrow. So far, I've been hearing issues of the budget is going to inspire hope, going to bring hope.
Inspire hope.
Maybe.
So, inspiring hope.
Maybe. We can't tell.
Inspiring hope for.
I don't know. So let's see how it will pan out.
We'll see how it pan out. But it's not so far away at all. That's about 24 hours. We should be getting the details. And we always have to work around the details like this. But it obviously will come to pass, and then we'll give you that information. But if you have the answers that Philip is asking, put them on our social media platform. We'll be sure to read them out. Inspiring hope. What are your expectations? Philip, thank you very much for coming. Philip Nafuri there, he's with Joy Business, and tomorrow he will be a part of the team that will bring you that comprehensive coverage of the budget, which happens to be the final one for this year.